आणि YouTube मध्ये आम्हाला बोलायचं नाही बोलायचं नाही जतुरी कसं શું કરશું वीडियो कैप्चर ना Hello friends, welcome to today's session. We are delayed by 5 minutes and today our session is on main proposal and key features of the budget of 2021. So every year I have been giving you PPT on the summary and of the budget. So this year it's a new initiative to take it live on YouTube, and I would like to hear from you once the presentation is over. So uh, we can start off. So these are the contents we are going to cover. Initially, we'll start off with some economic performance and some budget financials. Then we will take up proposals of direct taxes, then indirect taxes including GST, excise and customs. Just for clarification purpose that this presentation is just for educational purpose only, and expert guidance may be sought before acting upon any of the proposals shown, the text proposals. Let us start off with economic performance. So the key indicators, we can start off with GDP. GDP growth is expected to be subdued at the current year. As per the budget figures, it's expected to be around 7.7% negative growth, which is substantially lower. The IIP figures are also substantially lower for the year. The index of industrial production is 15.5. Inflation is near zero till date. The year is yet to complete, and we may see some change. The forex reserves have also increased substantially. Coming to budget financials. In budget financials, we can notice considerable increase in capital receipts. From around 10 lakh crore, it's around 18.95 lakh crores, which is substantial. Coming to the deficit figure, current year deficit is expected to be negative 7.5%. By next year, the budget estimates that it would reduce by reduce to 5.1%. The fiscal deficit for the current year is expected to be minus 9.5%. By next year, it is expected to be minus 6.8%. Overall, we can say, although being a resilient economy, we still have some way to go. Coming to the next figure, from where the rupee comes and from where the rupee goes. The notable difference this year is about from sources of the rupee. 36% of the rupee comes from borrowing and other liabilities, which if we compare with last year, it was just 20%. So there is a substantial increase in this, naturally owing to the deficit which we noticed earlier. Moving on to the next slide. Key policy announcement. A lot of key policy announcements were made by the finance minister in the budget speech. Prominent among those are that minimum loan size of NBFCs for debt recovery under Surface I has been reduced from 50 lakhs to 20 lakhs. Uh, right, so we'll see more recovery by NBFCs in the sector now. Recapitalization of PSB is proposed at 20,000 crores. A new ARC or AMC, in other words a bad bank, would be set up by government to take over the existing NPAs of PSU banks, and this is expected to clean balance sheets of PSU banks by quite a bit. Permissible FDI limit is proposed to be increased rather to 74% from 49% for insurance companies. And a development financial institution is proposed to be set up with a lending portfolio of 5 lakh crores in 3 years' time by the government. This is likely to give some impetus to the infrastructure sector. Coming to disinvestment, proposal to have strategic disinvestment in BPCL, Air India, Shipping Corporation, Container Corporation has been moved. BPCL is already in process, as we know. Privatization of 2 PSU banks and 1 general insurance company can be expected in next year or so. LIC IPO is expected in FY 21-22. As far as capital market is concerned, we are looking at some major reforms in near future. A single rationalized securities market code is going to be introduced, and all the SEBI regulations, deposit regulations, SCRA regulations, other government security act are going to be clubbed under this single securities market code. So we are going to see a major change in next year also. Now let us start with direct tax proposals. To start off with, we'll start off with presumptive taxation. Currently, presumptive taxation is permissible to professionals who have turnover up to rupees 50 lakhs, and they can show 50% of their turnover as income, as presumptive tax, as income for presumptive tax. Now, out of purview of these professionals, LLPs have been excluded. So the partnership firms, individuals will continue to avail benefit of this provision, but LLPs cannot, and even companies cannot already. Now coming to tax audit. The government wants to give a push to digital payments, and so government has given exemption for tax audit for turnover up to 10 crores if your cash receipts are less than or equal to 5% of total receipts, and your cash payments are less than or equal to 5% of total payments, which essentially says that 95% of your receipts and payments are in some digital form or the other. Only then you will be eligible. The other routine tax audit limits, there is no change. The 1 crore and the presumptive 8% 2 crore limit, which everyone is aware of, there is no change in that. This is just where your 95% of receipts and payments are in digital form. Okay. Now we move on to the next proposal. Startups. As most of us would be aware of, startups are eligible for 3 consecutive years of 100% profit deduction out of first 7 years of their incorporations. Any 3 years they can select. Now this scheme has been extended by 1 year till 31st March 2022. So even if a startup is formed in next year, they can avail this benefit if they fall under the norms prescribed. Now coming to affordable housing projects, there is a deduction rather under 80 IBA where profits are allowed as deduction for projects of certain category which has already been prescribed. These are mainly affordable housing. There is a pricing limit. There is a limit on the carpet area, the size of plot, right? So if all these conditions are specified, whatever the conditions are, benefit of this section, this deduction can be availed. It has been extended till March 2022. So new projects falling within this criteria and started off in this year can avail these benefits. Now coming on to interest on housing loan. 1.5 lakhs of additional deduction on housing loan was available over and above rupees 2 lakhs deduction which is available under the head of uh, house property. Now this benefit has been extended by 1 year till 31st March 2022. We'll go on to the next proposal. Deduction is available in case of transfer of aircraft leased by unit under unit of IFSC, which is located in SEZ, to a domestic company, if the operation is commenced on or before 2024. So this is pertaining to SEZ units dealing in aircraft. Now there is this new provision where TCS is to be deducted for non-filers at a higher rate. So we are aware of the TCS provisions where tax is to be collected in certain cases, like in case of a car we are aware of, where we buy a car more than 10 lakhs, valued more than 10 lakhs, we have to pay TCS to the dealer. Similar is the case with the scrap, right? So in case if you have not filed the return and you are buying a car, then your TCS will be collected at a higher rate. So essentially, the collector will have to ensure that the other person has filed the return. If that is not filed, he will have to collect TCS at higher rates. For example, let's take a practical example. In case of car, the TCS that is car above 10 lakhs, the TCS is applicable at 1%. And say if you are buying a car of 15 lakhs, 15,000 is the normal TCS. But in case if you will not file the return, the rate applicable is twice the rate, that is 2% or 5%, whichever is higher. So it will be 5%. And the TCS applicable will be 75,000 in this particular case. So this has some repercussions, and people will have to comply with the IT return norms. Okay, let us go on to the next provision. Income from other sources, royalty earned by giving aircraft on hire to IFSC. This is the last provision which we discussed pertaining to SEZ unit, that is exempt in hands of the receiver if the receiver is non-resident. Receipts of educational institution. Now receipts of educational institution which were wholly or substantially funded by government were exempt up to 1 crore, and this limit has been increased to 5 crore from 1 crore. The same is the case with charitable hospitals, where the threshold limit was 1 crore, which is increased to 5 crores. These are mainly small charitable trusts. Okay, so we move on to our next provision. Investment in alternate investment fund by sovereign funds and pension fund. So dividend, interest and capital gain of this sovereign fund and pension fund derived from AIF was exempt till date if this AIF in return invested 100% of its investment amount in REITs or InvITs. This has been relaxed to the tune of 50%. So dividend, interest and capital gains of sovereign fund pension fund will continue to be exempt, even if investment made by the AIF in REITs or InvITs is just 50%. Now we come to some provisions pertaining to trusts. As we all know, income in form of contribution with specific direction is already exempt. However, there is a change in law which requires that this contribution now needs to be invested in specified investment forms specified in section 11.5. It includes scheduled banks, it includes government securities. So this amount has to be mandatorily now invested. One more interesting provision pertaining to trust has come up. If trust has availed any loan and it is incurring expenditure out of these loans, it will not be allowed as application of income in that particular year. However, it will be allowed as application of income in year in which the loan is actually repaid to the extent it is repaid. So this is a new provision which the trusts will have to take care of. We move on to the next slide. TDS, tax deducted at source. Just like we saw TCS for non-filers, similarly provision for TDS for non-filers is also introduced. So a deductor will have to ask for the return details of the other person for previous 2 assessment years, and in case the returns are not filed and the TDS exceeds rupees 50,000, the TDS will have to be deducted at rate specified in relevant twice the rate specified in relevant provision or rate of 5%. So let us take a practical example here. Let us say there is a professional. So the normal rate in normal situation on professional is 10% of the TDS, right? 10% is the TDS rate. Now if the professional has not filed the return, the other person will have to deduct twice the rate, that is 20% TDS, which is substantially high. This will also happen in contractors. So in contractors, let us say the contractor is a company and the rate is 2%. So in that case, twice of 2% is 4% and 5% will apply. So this is a provision one will have to take care of, because the responsibility is on the deductor. So deductor will have to take it. Now another interesting provision on TDS, uh, on payment made to seller, TDS of 0.1% will have to be deducted if the value of purchases exceed rupees 50 lakh in previous year. And right, so similar provision of TCS was already introduced in October last year, where 0.1% is to be collected. So in effect, the same transaction TCS is also collected and TDS is also now proposed to be deducted. But this is only applicable if SSC's turnover is exceeding 10 crores. So compliance for all large manufacturing companies, trading companies will increase. They will have to maintain accuracy because of this provision. Okay, now capital gain and TDS. ULIP. An interesting provision has been made in respect of ULIP in the current budget. If the premium payable by individual exceeds 2.5 lakhs in any particular year, the ULIPs will be taxable. So it is, I should clarify that 2.5 lakhs is the aggregate amount of contribution in ULIP and not a single policy. So if your contribution to all the ULIP policy in a year exceeds 2.5 lakhs, it will not be exempt. Further, it will be taxed under long-term capital gain under section 112A, right? So this everyone must be aware of. First 1 lakhs it will be exempt, and then it will be taxed at 10%. So under 112A, so all your income from long-term equity gains, capital gains, long-term gains plus ULIPs will be combined. So effectively it will be taxed at 10% above 1 lakhs. However, sum received in case of death will continue to be exempt as it is pertaining to the risk covered in policy. TDS on foreign portfolio investors. Foreign portfolio investors are currently required, a payment to any FPI is required to be deducted. Tax is supposed to be deducted at 20% as per current provisions. However, as per the current proposed changes, if the beneficial rate is given in DTA with the country, DTAA with the country in which FPI is located, the beneficial rate, the tax TDS will be deducted at a beneficial rate instead of 20% if it is available. Okay, let us go on to the next slide. Transaction not regarded to transfer. Transfer of capital asset shares on conversion of primary cooperative bank to banking company, not to be considered as transfer and hence not taxable. Exemption on capital gain in respect of contribution to startups. Section 54GB is present, where capital gain on sale of residential property, if the proceeds are invested in eligible startups, is exempt from capital gains, exempt from tax. So this benefit has been extended till 31st March 2022. It was supposed to end in 2021. So if any new startup is started off by any SSE by after selling the house property, there will be no capital gain tax. The next one is pertaining to immovable property. Yeah, in immovable property, normally the stamp duty valuation is treated as sales consideration, uh, and the variation limit has been revised from 10% to 20%. So in case if the document of a property say 1 crore and the stamp duty value is 1.2 crores, uh, the sale consideration will be the document and not the stamp duty value. However, if it exceeds 1.2 crores, then the tax will be chargeable at the stamp duty valuation. The limit here is that property should not exceed 2 crores, right? Okay, so we move on to the next provision. Assessment procedure. Dispute resolution committee. Now DRC is to be constituted for settlement of issues at initial stage for small and medium taxpayers. The eligibility for SSE to approach DRC is if the return income is between 50 lakhs, is less than 50 lakhs, and the aggregate variation, that is addition in the order, is 10 lakhs or less. So after commissional appeals, after the appeal, instead of approaching the tribunal, the assessee can directly approach the dispute resolution committee. Reopening of assessment. The period for reopening of assessment reduced from 6 to 3 years, which is a major relief. However, evidence of concealment of income is present for rupees 50 lakhs or more. The reopening can be done for 10 years with approval of principal CCIT. Okay, we move on to the next provision. Appellate tribunal. Faceless proceeding to the extent of technical feasibility is to be introduced in income tax appellate tribunal. In case of assessment, time limits have been changed. Like for intimation under 143(1), if the return is to be filed in 21-22, year 21-22, the limit would have been 31st March 23, but it has been shortened by 3 months. It will be 31st December 22. It's 9 months from the end of financial year in which return was furnished. Similarly, notice under 143(2) can be issued for FY 21-22, return filed in FY 21-22, till 30th June instead of 30th September. The time limit has been reduced by 3 months. Interest on advance tax. Now, since dividend has become taxable in hands of the assessee, the question of interest on advance tax arisen, and necessary changes have been made in the law that interest owing to deferment or late payment of advance tax in respect of dividend income will not be applicable. Coming to the next point, senior citizens. Senior citizens have been given some relaxation from filing the returns. There are certain conditions. The citizen must be at least 75 years of age. The senior citizen must only have pension and interest income from specified banks. So here it is to be noted that banks from specified banks. So banks are yet to be specified by the government, right? And the banks in turn will take the detail of pension income and interest income from the citizen, and they will accordingly deduct TDS after reviewing the income, and senior citizens will not be required to file their return. Now coming to belated and revised return, the timelines have been revised for the belated and revised returns. Okay, we move on to the next point. So we are done with the direct tax proposals. We have covered most of the direct tax proposals. Now we'll go to GST and excise. At GST, as we are aware of, that major changes are done in the monthly council meetings, but in budget also sometimes some changes are done. So we'll cover the changes done in budget, proposed in budget. Cooperatives, clubs, associations. Ambiguity regarding transaction with member constituents removed. Transaction with members and constituents included in supply and accordingly to be taxed. So these are normally taxed by various clubs and associations. It's just a kind of, we can say, for a clarificatory in nature, just to remove ambiguity. Input tax credit. Credit can only be availed if supplier has furnished details of invoice, debit note, in statement or outward supplies. So condition of tax payment and return filing was already there, right? So again we can say this is just a clarificatory in nature, this input tax credit provision, because even as per existing provisions, similar compliances would be required in a sense. Now another important point is that GST audit is done away with. So certification of any professional CA will not be required for any GST audit. However, self-certified reconciliation statements will still be submitted in annual returns to whomsoever the annual return is applicable. The zero rated supply. There are some changes in zero rated supply in IGST. Supply to SEZ or SEZ unit to fall under zero rated supply only if the supply is for authorized operations. So these words authorized operations were initially not present. So the supplies must be pertaining to their actual business operations. A zero rated supply and payment of tax, there has been some changes now. Now government has been given power to notify persons who can make zero rated payments supply upon payment of IGST. As we all know, there are two ways of zero rated supply. One is upon payment of tax and one is without payment of tax. So for one with payment of tax, only government can specify the persons who can do it. Zero rated supply without payment of tax under bond LOU can still be continued, and SSEs can continue to claim refund. But here the government has made a major change in law, because in these cases government has added condition of foreign remittance. So the foreign exchange remittance has to be received within the time limit prescribed under FEMA, and in case if the foreign remittance is not received, in case of non-realization, the amount will have to be deposited with the interest. That is, amount of refund which you claim will have to be deposited along with interest, right? So there is a major rate in this zero rated supply. And if there are any questions regarding this, you can post it in comments and we'll respond. Provisional attachment of property. Power to attach property of the taxable person was already there, but now the power has been extended to cover any person who has derived benefit. Let us say, for example, there is some inappropriate fake invoicing, right? If the person and we have availed the credit, so not only our property can be attached, but also of the person who has issued that invoice can be attached. So this is a major change. Appeals in case of detention seizure, appeal to be filed only after payment of 25% of penalty. Already 10% of disputed tax liability is payable, but in case of detention, 25% of the applicable penalty will also have to be paid. Release of goods from detention seizure. The penalty has been increased from 100 to 200% of tax where the owner of goods come forwards. Even in the other cases, it has been increased. Okay, we move on to the next slide. Agriculture, infrastructure and development cess. This new cess has been introduced on imports and manufactured petroleum products. In case of imports, it is on multiple products. In case of locally manufactured products, it's mainly on petroleum products. So in case of petrol, as we can see, pointed out on the right hand side, it has been increased by 2.5 rupees a liter. In case of diesel, it has been increased by around rupees 4 per liter of diesel. In case of imported items, whatever the AIDC implications are there, we are covering it in the custom slide. Special additional excise duty, road and infrastructure cess. Methanol blended petrol, 15 and 20% blend has been exempted from these two duties. Other blend of petrol will be chargeable to these duties. We move on to the next part. Customs. AIDC has been introduced, as we know, and once we come to the rates, we will see wherever AIDC is applicable. Now, an interesting general rule has been introduced in customs, that all conditional exemptions will end on 31st March following immediately 2 years after the date of such grant. So whenever such exemption notification is issued, it will automatically cease to exist after 2 years on the subsequent 31st of March, unless the government specifies and varies the timeline of that exemption or chooses to continue that exemption. So a lot of exemptions will go away in next, you can say, 6 months or so. Now, major rate changes in customs. Carbon black, the BCD is increased by 2.5%. Gems and jewelry, in case of synthetic stones, cut and polished synthetic stones, it is increased from 10 to 15%. In case of raw silk, BCD is increased from 10 to 15. In case of raw cotton, where BCD was not applicable, BCD is 5% and 5% AIDC has been levied. Nylon fiber, there has been reduction from 7.5% to 5%. In case of gems and jewelry, existing BCD has been reduced, as we can see on all the items including silver, silver ore, gold, gold ore, other precious metals, and some AIDC also has been added 2.5% in silver and gold. However, the overall movement of the duty is on the lower side, as we can see on the screen. IT, electronics and renewable. Certain insulated wires, marginal increase in rate from 7.5 to 10%. This is interesting. Input parts of manufacture of cellular mobile phone. Certain parts were not taxable, now taxed at 2.5%. Certain other parts at 10% from 0% earlier. And we have seen a lot of mobile factories coming to India. So this is an interesting move by government. Solar lantern or solar lamps, it has been increased from 5 to 15%. In case of solar inverters, it is increased to 20% from initial 5%. Tunnel boring machines from nil to 7.5%, and other parts of the same machine 0 to 2.5%. These are certain items which are not taxable and now made taxable. Prominent among them is ethanol, which will now be taxed at 5%, and there are certain other material, MDI, and so that certain other things, ink cartridges, ribbon assembly. So friends, we are through with the customs thing as well. So friends, we have covered all important provisions which were proposed in this budget and some key highlights, key financials from budget. I hope you like the presentation, and if you have any specific queries pertaining to any provisions or would like to know anything, these are my contact details. You can email me, uh, or alternatively you can WhatsApp me on the said number. We are I would like to have your suggestions in the comment box section as well, and if you feel like, you can give your suggestions on email as well. Thank you for patient hearing and looking forward to your questions. Yeah, thank you.